The USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, it wants your help with the dietary guidelines. I think we're doomed. Welcome. I know I cut my intro off. I got eager and shit. You know, I didn't want to waste a whole lot of time. So, this is the live stream and shit. I've been working hard to try and make it look a little bit less janky and more professional. But, as, you know, for those of you who are new to my live streams, I generally come prepared with something to talk about. And I have a lot to talk about, but I had to narrow it down a little. But I'm sure I'll go off on multiple tangents once we get to the Q&A. I want to welcome everybody in the chat room. I see the usual people, and I see some new faces, and you know, you guys are making this community great. I see a lot of good things in the comments, and a lot of people that are helping both, not only me, but everyone find their, you know, find these little pieces of their personal journey, their personal puzzle. So, in this, you know, topic is brought to me by several of you that, you know who you are. I don't need to necessarily go fully into it, but you guys submitted to me that the USDA wants to know what the fuck to do about our food guidelines. And so let me just go ahead and play this the little message here, and then we're gonna go from there. We're gonna get into this shit.
The Departments of Agriculture and Health and Human Services are announcing a new step in their joint development process for the dietary guidelines for Americans.
So it's a new step. Apparently, we didn't give a fuck what anybody thought before, but now they're starting to wonder because we're starting to have a voice. We're starting to vote with our dollars. And this could have profound effects going forward.
For the first time, before our call for nominations for the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, USDA and HHS are posting for public comment topics and supporting questions for the scientific review that will support our development of the next edition of the DGA.
That was Brandon Lips, USDA's Acting Deputy Undersecretary for Food, Nutrition, and Consumer Services.
The purpose of the Dietary Guidelines is to provide food-based recommendations to maintain health and prevent diet-related chronic disease.
So, how have they been doing with that goal over the years? And what are they doing right now to further that goal? How are we doing health-wise? Things to keep in mind as we go forward.
It's important to note that as dietary guidelines has evolved over the decades, it isn't about focusing on individual foods or food groups. We're looking at what we eat and drink as a whole and how that can help with preventing diseases and keeping people healthy.
And
are we really looking at that? Or are we looking at what makes money? Because I see constant favoritism, even today, like a day ago, in the news about the USDA, favoring corporate interests, agricultural money interests over public health. And it's got to stop. So I encourage all of you to pay attention today and to do something. And that is to tell them what the fuck's going on out here in the trenches. Let them know how you got better, how you fixed things. Let them know how you do all the things you've done to get off your medications, to get healthier. And, you know, we'll get into it a little more as I dig deeper into what they're doing.
healthy.
And since food affects all Americans, the USDA official says anyone can go online to make a comment.
Public comment period will be open for 30 days, from February the 28th to March 30th, 2018.
So there's still time.
For convenience, we have also posted the link to submit public comments on dietaryguidelines.gov.
This time around,
That link is in the description to this video and on ScottTheTruckDriver.com, so I encourage you to explore that link thoroughly and take advantage of it.
there is a new focus.
The department's approach to the next edition of the Dietary Guidelines will focus on life stages and eating patterns. The topics and supporting scientific questions are...
So what to feed your kids and what you should eat when you're 70. Not quite where we should be looking given the epidemic levels, but hey, at least it's a start.
Scientific questions are organized by life stage, from birth to 24 months through older adulthood. Birth to 24 months is a new focus of this edition to meet the mandate of the 2014 Farm Bill, but we've also gotten feedback on specific guidance needed at different life stages. This will be the first time that we've had this focus on life stages in the Dietary Guidelines.
USDA and HHS are basing their topics on 4 criteria.
Relevance to the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, importance to public health, potential federal...
So are they really going to weigh public health? Call me a skeptic.
Federal impact on food and nutrition programs, and avoiding duplication of federal efforts.
He says the public comments will help shape the process.
USDA and HHS...
Will they really? I want to believe this shit. I really do, but I'm already seeing evidence to the contrary, and they haven't even really fucking wrapped this intake of our comments up yet, and they're already doing shit that completely contradicts what they're saying they're trying to do. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't speak up.
USDA and HHS will consider all public comments in relation to those 4 criteria in finalizing the list of topics and questions to be examined in the review of the evidence. The final list of topics and questions will inform the scope of the advisory committee, the expertise needed on the committee.
I really want to know who's on the advisory committee, by the way. I couldn't find the list. So if any of you manage to find that list, put it in the comments later after the live stream's over.
And the topics to be addressed in the next edition of the Dietary Guidelines that USDA and HHS will cooperatively develop.
So, you know, that's where we're at. I want to take a moment to acknowledge Robert Brown. Thank you for your super chat contribution and keeping me doing these videos and keeping me, you know, able to spend the time, you know, even today, a couple hours prep and then a couple hours of live streaming and then probably some commenting after that. So thank you very much. And not to mention I have a large list of shit that I'm doing in the research to keep furthering my knowledge. So thanks, Robert Brown. So that's where we're at, you know, as far as what they're telling us that they're going to do. So I encourage you to follow the link in the description and let them know, you know, don't hold back on what has worked for you and what has not worked for you. How you got healthier. Tell them your story. Take your time. Will they read it? I don't know. I can't guarantee it'll make a difference. But the louder our voices are, the more we get through to them, maybe they'll see the writing on the wall at the very least and have to make some compromises in favor of public health instead of, you know, corporate interests, you know, big business, the lobbying, all of the shit that really guides the science and the guidelines. They tend to be flooded with science from the industry, and that science is telling them a different story than our public health is. And they need to start fucking listening to us more than they listen to the people that are funding their campaigns, that are lobbying for their businesses to not lose money, because it seems to me that the economy has taken so much priority over our health that we aren't going to make it. Not only as a society, but globally, this is a problem as well. I know I have a lot of people outside the United States who also watch this. So you know, digging a little deeper into this, I went ahead and, you know, this is the website here that, and you click here to start down this rabbit hole. I haven't done this yet. I will be doing it before the deadline. But I did dig in a little bit. Did I get this right? All right. So when you first click on that, you're going to be brought to this page that, you know, on what they want the questions are based on. And here's the criteria. Relevance. Topics in the scope of dietary guidelines, and it's focused on food-based recommendations, not clinical guidelines for medical treatment. So what that's basically telling me is maybe they'll start listening to the nutrition world more than the pharmaceutical world. Remains to be seen. But that would be a positive thing. If they actually took into account public health, the data that we, the people, submit versus the data the pharmaceutical industries and their scientists submit, then that is a step forward for public health. But it's not going to be filling their pockets with money, so they're kind of at odds. You know, they need to balance that. Importance. Topic for which there is new relevant data and represents an area of substantial public health concern, uncertainty, knowledge gap. The glyphosate thing, motherfuckers. This needs to be looked at and not ignored anymore, not written off as science complete. You know, and the more I dig into that rabbit hole, and that is a huge one in our food supply and probably requires the most attention right now before we debate whether or not to be vegan. You know, because this affects everybody, regardless of your dietary choices. Potential federal impact. Probability that guidance on a topic would inform federal food and nutrition policies and programs. You know, what's the probability that the industry is going to change the way that they formulate their food based on the guidelines? I'd say the probability is high because they work hand in hand with the food industry. With the food industry having a lot more pull than you and I do. But in the end, it is us that has the most pull. We're the ones voting with our dollars. We're the ones going into the store and buying this shit. And if we, as individuals, change how we purchase food and what foods we choose to consume, that will start from the ground up to make changes that even the greedy motherfuckers won't be able to do anything about. So we are kind of reversing this to a bit. But the fact that they're starting to listen to us, it could mean two things: that they're going to get on board before they are left behind, or they're going to find a way to subvert this grassroots movement, to keep us misinformed, confused, and not, you know, galvanizing our health and improving ourselves. Because a lot of the people I hear from and myself have improved their health completely outside of the medical industry and completely outside of the nutritional guidelines. If I listened to the nutritional guidelines, I would not be where I am today, with good blood levels, at my weight loss goal, healthy, and a lot happier, a lot less allergic. So that's what they need to do. They need to stop thinking with their money and start thinking about people dying and chronic disease and autism rates skyrocketing and cancer rates skyrocketing. Everything's fucking going up. So here, a lot of us are worried about weight, but there's an underlying cause to our weight problem that we need to address. And that a lot of our advice to lose weight, and this is, you know, based on Ron DeNeff, I just noticed your comment. That's what kind of sent me into this rabbit hole. I lost 40 pounds on keto, but have put 10 back on in 2 days eating garbage. The weight is a side effect, in my opinion. I believe that we need to address the underlying health problems and that the weight will normalize. And you shouldn't be so hard on yourself because these foods are addicting. They bring you in. They you know, our food environment is set up for you to fail, for you to not be healthy. because you being healthy isn't giving anybody any fucking money. So oh, sorry, there's a new feature in the chat room that it's holding chats for review. I will go ahead and show that one. Apparently, if you swear, it asks me if I want you to do that or something, which is nice. I kind of like that, actually, because it lets me know if trolls are here. Anyways, so here are the proposed topics and scientific questions. Infants and toddlers from birth to 24 months. This is critical time period, by the way. This sets you up for the rest of your life, and I've been studying a lot of gut bacteria things, and we're already just set up to fail when we, you know, drop right out of the birth canal onto the fucking table. We're already unhealthy, because it turns out that the damage to the mother and father's health is directly given to the child, and I do mean directly. But we're going to get into that and when I start diving deeper into gut bacteria and gut health. A rabbit hole I've been reluctant to go down, by the way, because of the complexity and the fact that I still think we don't know enough to make any conclusions on it. But there's some evidence out there that should be addressed, especially with regards to the antibiotic natures of some of our pesticides that are in most of the food and in the water and in the air and in our lawns and in your neighbor's lawn. Children and adolescents 2 to 18. Adults 19 to... So basically everybody. I mean, why don't you just say we're going to look at everybody, but we're going to break them down into these several stages of life and see if there's a differentiation between all of those. So, you know, that's good. I don't think that's quite a way. We need to start fixing them here at the infants to toddlers range. And I bet you a lot of these will get healthier. That's just me. If I was, you know, smart and in charge and shit, I would probably do it that way first, because the kids are more important going forward, and the rest of us can learn on our own. The kids don't have a choice. The babies don't have a choice. They're stuck with what we do. Same thing for most children. They eat what their parents give them. And if we learn to make better choices for ourselves, we tend to try and pass those choices on to our children. So, you know, these are all things that need to be addressed. So, topic: recommend duration of exclusive human milk or infant formula feeding. Well, that's a no-brainer. First, get the mother healthy, then, you know, don't use the formula. A lot of the formula has sugar, processed foods, glyphosate, you know, all of this shit. I do not trust formula. That's just me. You know, it's really up to you as a parent. But if you are a healthy mother, the best thing you could possibly do is breastfeed, in my opinion, because you are passing that good health directly to your child. When you start putting the chemically made formulas into your child, you know, that is one of the first steps of them getting roped into this processed food environment that got us all fucked up in the first place. So anything that's natural that we're supposed to do. Now, notice I put the little asterisk on there that if the mother's healthy. And it's important to get healthy if you're going to give birth to a child, in my opinion. You should do everything in your power to research, to learn, to improve your personal health. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. I realize I'm not being realistic, but that's how it is. Dietary supplements. You know me, I'm not the supplement guy. We need to fix our food instead of taking pills because our food sucks. Okay? Because our diet sucks, we take pills. So we need to break that shit up. That's a monetary thing. You know, they're making money because the food sucks, because they can sell us the supplements. You know, supplements, in my opinion, aren't much different than the pharmaceutical industry. You know, yeah, they sound healthier, they sound better for you, but in the end, it's a pill that you're paying because you are not getting something that you would normally just be getting if you were eating properly. So that's my opinion there. So if you have to take supplements, there's something wrong with your diet. And it might not be your fault. It might be something in your diet that is causing that problem. So things to be figured out. Complementary food beverages, timing, introduction, and types and amounts. So they're going to look at fasting, maybe, you know, micronutrient status, growth, development, food allergies. Yeah, well, you got a lot to look at with the antibiotic thing if you're going to look at food allergies. Beverages, cow's milk, water, 100% fruit juice, sugar-sweetened beverages, milk alternatives. So you can see where they're leaning right there in their bias. So, you know, and they go over all of this for each breakdown group. You know, where was it? I saw it earlier, the fucking dietary things that they were looking at. Shit, I lost it. Anyways, they, sorry, I'm being a little... there was something I wanted to talk about that I lost my place on. Dietary guidelines, maybe? But they listed some of the things they're looking at for the dietary guidelines in terms of the types of diets. And they listed kind of a... Here it is. Here's what I was looking for. What is the relationship between specific dietary patterns? Dietary guidelines related. And just looking at this is kind of... They're showing their hand here. Dietary guidelines related to the Mediterranean-style dietary approaches to stop hypertension, which is DASH, which is their current dietary guidelines. Vegetarian, vegan, and low carbohydrate diets. Notice low carbohydrate, not high fat low carbohydrate, which there is a difference. You can have up to 100 grams on a Mediterranean low carb diet. And I'm sure that's exactly the kind of diet they're talking about. They're not talking about keto, and they're definitely not talking about carnivore. Nowhere in here do you see anything about fucking meat, do you? You know, they're basically going to look at this through the lens of their current guidelines, their current information from the medical world, their current science that was provided by industry funding, and this is the lens that they're going to go through. They're going to go through the financial lens. These diets keep you in all of these treadmills. The food treadmill, the healthcare treadmill, the diet industry's treadmill, and, you know, the organic fucking vegan treadmill, and, you know, all of these health conscious things that they're twisting and turning to bastardize to get you to buy more shit that you probably don't really need to survive. And just one last thing before we get to the Q&A, because I literally came about this 20 minutes before I got on here to talk about the USDA and what they're going to fucking do to us. This popped up on my Google feed. Like, you know, the little news story parts and shit. This was like March 14th, so like, what, a day ago? 2 days ago? Trump, you know, and you always know they're going to throw Trump on anything that's bad, but I'm less concerned with that because I honestly don't think he plays a big role in these decisions. I do believe that this is the USDA directly, but anything bad that happens in the world, we're just going to put Trump's name on it because, you know, that's how we roll as the media. I am not a fan of Trump, by the way, but at the same time, he's not solely responsible for everything bad that's happened. And I don't think he has anything to do really with this as well. He might say some stupid shit, but that's about as political as I'm going to get on that. USDA withdraws animal welfare regulation for organic farms, sparking backlash. And this is something that we can all be pissed off about. The vegans are being the most vocal about it. So are the animal activists. But for ketos and carnivores, you need to be concerned with this because, as I've been stating for the past week, you know, the only way to reduce your glyphosate exposure is to go organic. You're still going to get some exposure, but not as much. But they're going to, this tells me they could possibly go back to feeding them the glyphosate polluted fucking corn feed meal that they've been giving them. They could be putting them back into the shitty living conditions that we're in that required more antibiotics. And, you know, So I see, on the one hand, I'm seeing this, please come here and tell us what you think. And, you know, people are pretty vocal about organic right now. Organic is a term. People want to eat healthy. And even their own vegan base wants this to go away. So the Agricultural Department has withdrawn regulations that would require higher production standards for organic livestock and poultry beginning in May, known as the Animal Welfare Rule. A move animal rights groups condemned as a travesty and an organizational representing organic farmers and consumers called unconscionable. In the latest effort to rescind Obama-era regulations, the Trump administration is doing away with a directive aimed at standardizing the way animals are treated in organic farms if their meat is being sold under the certified organic label. The rule was finalized April 2016 and published in January 2017. A lack of clarity in the organic livestock and poultry standards has led to inconsistent practices among organic producers, according to the USDA fact sheet. This action assures consumers that organically produced products meet a consistent standard by resolving the current ambiguity about outdoor access for poultry. In other words, can the motherfuckers go out and eat the way they're supposed to eat? So they better be mowing the lawn and bringing the grass in if you're going to keep them inside. It also establishes clear standards for raising, transporting, and slaughtering organic animals and birds. So there was another part to this that I wanted to emphasize as far as why they are doing this. Let's see. Okay, yeah, here's a quote. Had the rule gone into effect, we believe it would have forced a number of organic farmers and ranchers to just basically change their production practices, and it would likely have forced many of them either out of the organic sector or not, if not, out of business, said AFBF Public Policy Executive Director Dale Moore in a statement. That right there is the smoking gun on the USDA's agenda. That right there is going to affect our health, and they're doing it specifically to fucking tell us that they're doing it specifically to tell these farmers, it's okay, we got your back, you know, you don't need to do all this expensive ass shit anymore. We'll keep you in business. And it's doing so at the expense of having healthier livestock, which translates into having healthier humans. At least those of us that aren't vegan. The vegans are pissed off just because we're hurting animals again. More. Vegans ultimately don't want us to eat any meat at all. But we all should be pissed off about this. I am. I was just about to go organic, motherfuckers, and now you're going to tell me the staple of my diet, especially when I do the carnivore experiment, is going to be more fucked up. You know, it's already pretty fucked up because of cross-contamination and pollution, but now you're going to fuck it up even more. Also, you can have that label stay on more packages because right now organic's big business. You can tell when you walk into the supermarket and you see organic just fucking everywhere. So that's where we're at. That's the USDA today. And my predictions, how's this all going to go down? We're going to let our voices be heard. I have no doubt that many of you are probably already on that website answering the questions and giving them your 2 cents. But where is our 2 cents going to weigh against stuff like this? I mean, this is a no-brainer. You're going to cram these animals into a smaller space, which increases their need for antibiotics. You know, and I don't know what the rules are going to be. I need to really dig further into what the new guidelines for the organic label is. I guess we need to really hone in on what that means when you see that label, because that label is being bastardized from a, okay, it's okay to eat this, it's healthy, to You can buy this because we say it's healthy. And that's the trend. It happened with the organic movement. Now everything's organic. Organic cane sugar, which probably means less glyphosate. But still, it's unhealthy as fuck for you. But now we've associated health with organic. So now they're like, well, if we don't put fucking organic on, motherfuckers aren't going to buy it. Jesus Christ. Every time we do something, they come up with some new thing that they want. They being us, the ones with the money. And if we start communicating with each other like we are right here today, we can change this from down here. So don't get too depressed about this. I still have a lot of faith in our ability to vote with our dollars, unless they find some way to just take away all our options. In which case, you know, you don't know. So I have a lack of optimism. The agriculture industry has been pushing us to plant-based for a while because it is the most subsidized crops. They've been steering us to grain, away from meat for years. There are those among us who have gone the opposite direction and noticed profound improvements of health. Those of us who are moderate, and gone ketogenic, we've noticed profound improvements of our health, doing basically the opposite of what the fucking USDA's guidelines are. And I leave it to you to decide, based on our current health record, our epidemic levels, and our government isn't the only one guilty of this, by the way. Where do we stand now versus the day that the first food regulations came out during the McGovern Commission? How has the government handled our dietary guidelines? We listened to them. We went low fat. We ate our cereal for breakfast instead of our eggs and bacon. We did all of that. Where are we today versus then, following these guidelines? The whole time they're screaming that we're fucked up because we didn't follow the guidelines. Yet if you dig into the data, we clearly went low fat. Go into the store and you'll still see it there. We did everything that we could. The food industry reformulated, then put all the commercials up to fucking get us to buy the shit. We did what they told us to do. And now we are sicker than we've ever been in human fucking history. Which is sad, given that we didn't have treatments for infectious disease back in the day. And I really wish they would wake up to that. So fill that out, but don't get your hopes up. That's my take on it. I'm going to, submit my comments to the USDA, and I'm sure many of you will as well. But don't put your faith entirely in the government. We have to do this ourselves. It starts with us. And then once we get our health under control, then we can help those around us. Like I'm helping my mother overcome her 300 blood sugar, and she's been in the 100 to 120 range in just a month's time. And in 2 more months, her A1C is going to look fucking phenomenal, or at least a hell of a lot better than it was, and she won't be put on medication as a result of that. So I'm helping her save all this money in hospital and medication just by telling her not to eat the standard American fucking diet anymore and eat keto. In a short period of time. Imagine if she sticks to it for a year or 2. So that's where we're at. By all means, the link is in the description. Go check it out. So now we're going to do the Q&A. This is the part of the video where the topic can change based on what I see in the comments. I have trouble keeping up. So we're going to try something different this week. I'm going to try and keep from scrolling too far back in the chat and address things that pop up. So if I miss your question, I regret it, but keep posting it, repost it if I don't get to you and you really want me to answer it. I'm going to try. There's about a 30-second delay, so I'm going to try to not, have to do a lot of scrolling back, especially since I went to all the trouble of putting this little chat thingy together that you're looking at now. So there's that. Thank you, Joe Maley. Did I fuck your name up? For your contribution to Super Chat. He wrote, Scott, thanks for all you do. So that is awesome and shit. So here we go. Let's take a look at what's on the screen right now. Let's see. T. Oliver, at Robert Brown, they want to make factory-produced meat. It's my dream to raise chicken and goats one day to avoid this nonsense. And that brings up a good point. We should be focused on our local growers. If you have a farmer's market in the area and you can actually drive out to their farm and kind of see what they're up to and see how they're doing it, or just drive by and see, does it look like a factory farm or does it look like some small motherfucker growing some shit in his garden that's going to bring it to the market for you? I'm not suggesting that it's feasible for all of us to go ahead and farm and grow our own food, because it's really not. I mean, let's face it, some of us don't even live in an area where that's possible. Some of us are in polluted areas where it's, even if you did that, you'd still be fucked. So, you know, and some of us just can't, don't have the time, don't have the ability to, but we need to stop funding the big, you know, chemical farming industry and, you know, the processed meat industry that is feeding the chemically farmed shit to our livestock. We need to take our money away from them and give it to the farms that are doing it right. And here's what's going to happen if we do that as a collective. The big farm is either going to refine how they do things and get on board, or they're going to go out of business. Those are their options if we do that from the ground up. So research your area. You want to be as close to your agricultural foods as possible. If you're going to eat vegetables, if you're going to eat meat, obviously it goes without saying that you're going to get a better product from your area, unless you live in like Iowa and some of these other places that are overrun with corporate farms funded by Monsanto, and Monsanto pretty much has a stranglehold on. And waters. Oh, sorry. I got off on a little fucking tangent there. Anyways, you want to try and know where your food's coming from. If you can't grow it yourself, at least take the time to find out where your food is coming from. If you're buying your shit in the supermarket, find out where they're getting it from. You know, and if the place they're getting it from is shitty, or, you know, doing things that are questionable, or, you know, shown to be shady in any way, don't buy it. Buy something else and do your homework. It's going to narrow your food, you know, choices dramatically, which is a lot to ask a lot of people who are just struggling with not eating the standard American diet. So, you know, I realize it's a lot to ask, and it's a lot of work. It's not fun, and it sucks that we have to do that if we want to be healthy. But that's, if you want to get one step closer to health, to optimal health, that's what you got to do. Now, I took a shit on optimal health, and I still stand by that it's impossible in our current food environment. But there's a spectrum, and you can be at one end or the other. And I want to be a little closer to the other end, given this new knowledge. Now, before this glyphosate shit popped up, I was content with where I'm at. But now that I know some of the symptoms that can happen, and that I've experienced some of, I want to move the needle a little further in the health spectrum. I don't have to. I could probably live till my 70s and 80s just doing keto, just doing fasting, the things I do now, where I will feel good enough. But I'm exploring how, you know, what happens if I go a little further. And maybe in doing that I'll help somebody address some problem that they may be having. So there's that. So let's see where we're at here. Laura Rios. Hopefully I got that right. I'm starting a carnivore diet on Monday. 1 meal a day with 20 hours of fasting. What do you think, Scott? I've gotten a lot of push to do my own carnivore experiment. Hold on. Consequently, there's a less glyphosate pollution where Poland Springs is bottled, for those of you who are going to comment on that. I would say it's an elimination diet, and I'm going to do it myself, but I don't know that I'm going to commit to be a permanent carnivore yet. I'm going to answer that question. And for myself, do I feel better? Is there a noticeable improvement in things? Do I lose the last 2 inches around my belly? You know, what is it going to do to me? That's the question I'm going to answer. So I can't really, you know, if you want to do your own self-experiment, I am all for it. You know, you try things out, and if they work, you do it. If they don't work, you don't do it. There is still a risk when you're doing this of what are the long-term consequences. But that balances out, in my opinion. What are the long-term risks of eating keto? What are the long-term risks of being a vegan? What are the long-term risks of being a standard American dieter? And what are the long-term risks of being a carnivore? Each one of those diets has some long-term risks, some of which we know, some of which we do not know. So no matter what diet you're on, there's something in that diet that is unhealthy for you, including keto, by the way. And I say it all the time, there are keto junk foods, there are foods that don't belong in our bodies that are a perfectly okay thing to eat on a ketogenic diet, as we've been learning. So it's about experimenting in, you know, what your acute response is to things. And then if you do it for a longer period of time, you get a little bit further into how is this affecting me long term. 30 days is a nice small benchmark. 6 months would be a big picture type deal. A year is when you're probably going to know how much the diet fucks you. You know, I'm giving it 30 days because I want to see acutely how it affects me. And then if I like the results, maybe I'll stick with it. I am grappling with the do I go caffeine free during that period, eliminating dark chocolate and coffee from my diet completely in order to be give carnivore a true try, but then I go through that caffeine withdrawal. And then I have to either make the choice to be caffeine free or go back to my coffee, which I love. So there's that. Not to mention that's one of my fat delivery mechanisms. I drink the heavy cream in my coffee quite often. So I would say do it. As far as the fasting, 20-hour fast to me is how we should normally eat. Eat when you're hungry is the other option, which will probably lead to a 16 and 8 style. But you can eat one meal a day and be perfectly fine. In fact, you can stabilize your weight at one meal a day, depending on how the foods you're eating. Ratchet Ouchery. Hi, Scott. Can you please answer why is my heart rate increased on a high-fat diet? Did you experience that? No, I did not. My heart rate is fine. I would evaluate the kinds of foods you're eating in your high-fat diet because that matters. Are you eating out a lot? Are you going to restaurants and eating keto and just pulling your meat off the bun? Is there a lot of vegetable oil in that process? I mean, how good is your keto diet? Because if you're eating out a lot as a keto, you are not being healthy. You are getting exposed to vegetable oils. You're getting they sneak fucking sugar and shit in wherever they can. Some places are better than others about that. But the key is to just not eat out as often and have a little bit more control over your food, because you give that up when you eat out. So if you're eating out a lot, I would say look at that. Look at your veg. Is it organic? Are all the veggies that you're eating having a good track record with everybody? Do an elimination style diet. Start reducing to your bare bones. You could do a carnivore experiment too and see how that affects you. And then gradually add in the vegetables that you like one at a time. Give it a few weeks and see what that does for you, because the heart rate changes acutely. You know, I mean, you can figure it out if you do an elimination style diet. Evaluate the foods you're eating and decide which one of those is causing the problem. You know, and that's basically what I believe carnivore diet is the best thing to do, as far as it gives you a baseline that you're not going to fucking die, which is being proven, has been proven in history as well. It's been proven with some of the ancestral tribes that ate exclusively animal-based with very little to no plant. So we know we're not going to die if we go carnivore, assuming the meats aren't all fucked up. And then you can gradually reintroduce foods and see what it does to you, what it does for you. It's a long process, and it should not be rushed. You shouldn't be like, oh, I gave up meat for, or I gave up plants for 3 days, and I feel good, so it's a good diet. No, give it some time. Give yourself body time to adapt. Give your gut microbiome time to switch its profile, which is going to happen, and see how you work, how you feel. Do allergies go away? There's all these little symptoms. I don't know your situation. I don't know the foods that you eat. I don't know if you drink on your ketogenic diet, which can also have an effect. I don't know if you have cheat days. So there's a lot of questions in there that could contribute to a higher, heart rate. I myself have perfect blood pressure. And in fact, I made sure to ask, and she was like, it could not be better. And my pulse was just fine, well within normal range for resting. I myself haven't gotten on a treadmill, and, so I don't know how my workout heart rate is. But, you know me, I don't want to pound no fuckmasters today. Let's see here. Stars in a Forest, who, by the way, has an excellent story on her YouTube channel. So check out her channel. Being broke has its advantages. We cook all our meals at home. No restaurant meals since December 2016. And I agree. Restaurants should be a treat. It shouldn't be how we eat every day. If you put your diet in the hands of people you don't know, you don't see them cooking your food, you don't know where they got that food. They could be buying it from some shitty place with factory farmed crap, or you don't know. You have no control. You want to know what governs their decisions? There's two things. What food is cheap versus can we make it taste good enough to get you to walk through the fucking door and buy it? It's expanding that margin. It has to be cheap coming in, and we have to be able to have you want it enough that you'll pay more for it going out. And, hopefully we got some talented chef that knows how to flavor it properly and, so on and so forth. But that is the business model for a restaurant. Make it taste good. McDonald's takes it to the next level by putting sugar in just about everything, and salt and fat, but not the right fat, vegetable oil. And the meat is but a shallow, version of the fucking meat that you should be eating. It's probably the worst of the worst in terms of meat quality, in my opinion. I have to throw that in my opinion on there so don't think I'm talking shit. But, you can't put your health in the hands of an industry, even something that seems as innocent as a restaurant industry, and expect to have perfect outcomes. Now, can you survive? Can you be healthier in those industries? Absolutely. But if you ever want to take it up a notch, take more control over your food. Know where it comes from. Know how it got to your table. So these are all things that you can do. But this is not an easy process. I admit it. It's not. It might not even be sustainable. So, let's see here. Rosalba, at work, people always bring donuts and sweet stuff. They complain while they eat. They don't eat it if you are going to bitch about it making you fat. Oh, then don't eat it if you're going to bitch about it making you fat. That is the addiction side of it. That's the side that I talk about a lot now that I've overcome that particular addiction. It's not an easy addiction to overcome. It took me a long time. I tried to keep that shit in my life, even if it was once a month. It wasn't till it was gone a while that I started to realize that that has no place in my diet. That is not food. I literally walk through the baked goods that are thrown in my face everywhere I go, socially, in the stores, in the restaurants, and I go, that is not food. I don't look at it as food anymore. When you've dug as deep into these rabbit holes as I've been going lately, your brain makes this change in how it sees food. You know, when you start to realize that certain foods are so detrimental to your health that they have no place in your diet, you wake the fuck up and you start making better choices. And if it wasn't for my ability to fast, I probably would be fucked, because you're going to find yourself in food situations that just are untenable, you know, if you don't know how to fast your way through them, because you're not going to have any healthy food available. And everyone's going to want you to eat. You're going to be the asshole at the party that everyone says, oh, that motherfucker, he's a little fucking food snob, not eating my shit. You bastard came over here, I made this big-ass fucking thing of cupcakes, and you didn't touch it, you prick. Start fucking eating my fucking shitty food. You know, that's the social pressure, you know. Sorry, I got a little bit of Tourette's going there. CA from New Jersey, thank you for your super chat contribution. Hey Scott, hope this helps with the research and all the time you take to watch videos and our emails we send you and shit. And I do see and read all the emails. You guys have submitted enough fucking research for me to become a PhD if I were to just sit here all day, every day, and try and follow up all the research. At the same time, there are things that jump out at me in the research that I do dive into. And for example, and thanks Alex Walker, fight the power, LOL. I'm starting to get a growing community of conspiracy theorists too, I've noticed. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. These are all things that we have a part to play in that I... not that I'm implying that Alex is. I just thought of that because of, you know, a lot of people could see what I'm saying as, you know, us and them type stuff, when it's really all of us, you know, have a role in this. Our consumption patterns are driving a lot of this. But we can get into that debate another time. So thank you two for helping, and of course all the other super chatters we've had so far, Joel Maley and Robert Brown, and keeping me going. But today one of you submitted a conspiracy, and that's another reason I thought it was on my brain, a conspiracy theory style video that is like, it was called the first anti-vegan documentary, and it was literally just something that was a bunch of clips thrown together with some computerized voice behind the background, you know, like conspiracy theory videos. But during that video I came across this shit. Well, it's not shit, it's actually remarkably good. I was really impressed with her part in the video, so impressed that I went and found out about her. And this is Dr. Natasha Campbell. I haven't finished watching this yet. I literally just started my way. There's a 3-parter, and the first part's like a half-hour long. So, and, you know, the part I heard from the conspiracy theory documentary was her part on cholesterol and fat, and that's what sucked me into trying to hear from her. But turns out she has this big, vast knowledge of the gut microbiome and its effects on health. So I'm really starting to look into Natasha Campbell's, you know, speeches and her research, and hopefully I can find some stuff with some references to link through to see where she kind of draws her opinions from. But if you got the time, I didn't link this in the description. I will because I'm going to talk about these videos next week. But, you know, that's who I'm looking into right now. And that's because you guys have sent me these links. You know, you send me into these rabbit holes. The whole glyphosate thing was sent through ScottTheTruckDriver.com, research submission. Sent me a bunch of glyphosate links. And I started clicking. And then, you know, that intrigued me. So I did more of my own, Googling and searching and finding out and listening to some speeches and coming across people that, you know, that sound intelligent, that have a little bit of common sense mixed with a whole lot of science. And then I start looking at where they're coming from, what their interests are, as far as, are they biased? Are they funded by something? You know, and I evaluate each one. I'm going to start doing more reviews of the talking heads that are out there telling us the information. So that's kind of where we're at. You know, you guys have helped me in so many ways. You get, you know, Christopher Photos just submitted. Yeah, let's throw Scott some cash. Thank you. You helped me financially, obviously. But the other very valuable thing that you all have done is give me more knowledge that I probably would not have looked for or found on my own. And it's all based on your pieces of the puzzle that you've been doing. And it's that intercommunication and then coming up here and sharing it amongst ourselves that is allowing us to put our puzzles together, our health puzzles. I'm still on that fucking metaphor. I don't know why. What do you want me to do? I can't change that. So it's pretty fucking awesome, you know? I mean, that we're to this point that we can sit here and just kind of commiserate on our journeys and the things that we've accomplished. So let's see here. Chris H. The reason why fasting is not mentioned in mainstream media is because there is no money to be made from it. And that's also, by the way, why you won't see it in the USDA guidelines. You won't see medical guidelines. You won't see the pharmaceutical industry preaching it unless they can figure out a way to put it in a bottle. You know, a pill that mimics fasting. I bet you that's being looked for. I would imagine that would have some drastic side effects. So there's that. Glenn Graham, restaurants and fast food places are in business to sell cheap food for profit and not to sell you healthy food. They use cheap, bad oils. Avoid fast food. Learn to cook. Good advice. I kind of went over that a little bit, but that just hits it home. That's the first thing I did that started to get me results was eat out less. You know, and I found I had to do that in order to quit sugar, in order to quit alcohol. You know, I just ate out less. You know, there are times when, you know, I'm not a big cook, but it only takes me like 5 minutes to whip up some organic eggs. It's literally very quick process, and you can mix eggs in a variety of ways. Ground beef, same thing. It only takes me maybe a little bit longer, probably more like 10 minutes to throw some ground beef in a frying pan and mix a bunch of shit in it, like cheese and, you know, some spices and salt, and, you know, make sure I get all my electrolytes that way. And I have a very filling. In fact, the other day I did that. I put almost, I'd say half a pound, maybe 3/4 of a pound of ground beef, and I just threw a bunch of mozzarella cheese in it. I seasoned it. I put some garlic in it, and I just sat there and ate a bowl of that. And by the end of it, I was overfull. You know, I finished it, but I was stuffed. And the next day, I wasn't hungry at all. So between the 80% fat, you know, and the amount of protein I consumed, you know, it's part of, you know, can I really eat as a carnivore is one of the reasons I chose that particular meal. And that's all I had, you know. So, but I was stuffed, you know. It was fucking great. My mother also ate that, by the way. And she had a much smaller portion and was full a lot quicker as well. So that's kind of where we're at there, you know. Experiment. Figure it out. But have control over your food. Know where it comes from. If you go out to eat, know where they get their food from. Know what they put in their food if you can. Some places aren't going to tell you that. And you're just taking a chance. And if you're going to gamble by going out to eat, then you just can't gamble as often. If you gamble enough, here's another metaphor and shit. If you gamble enough, it's stacked against you. You're going to fucking lose everything. All right? So if you're out gambling in the fucking food restaurant market every fucking day, sooner or later, you're going to lose. I don't care how much you're trying to pick the buns off and, you know, do all of that. Sooner or later, you're going to lose if you gamble by eating out all the time. This is an elimination thing you can do there, too. You know, how do you feel after you go eat there? Then go a while without eating there. No, don't eat anywhere else either. Eat your normal, full control cooked food. And then every once in a while, go check that place out again. How do you feel afterwards? Do you feel like shit for the next 3 days? Probably shouldn't eat there. Just my opinion. You know, these are how I make my decisions. And it can help you to evaluate things based on how you feel, especially once you're off the standard American diet and you kind of have a good baseline. Keto gives you a good baseline on how you should normally feel. How without all of this extra unhealthy shit in your life, do you feel? And once you get to that baseline and you're used to feeling that way, anytime you step outside that box, you're going to feel like complete shit. If I went to the restaurant and ate me a nice big standard American diet meal filled with pasta and all kinds of shit right now, I could literally do this right now, go out and do that, and I would feel like shit for 3 to 4 days. My weight gain would probably be in the neighborhood of 4 to 8 pounds. Mostly water weight, some bloating, and all kinds of other problems that would happen. I would set myself back. I would, create new fat. That's kind of just a side effect, really. But I would probably feel like complete dog shit for a while. For a number of reasons. Would it long-term derail me to have that one cheat meal? No. If I started to do that cheat meal regularly, even if it was spaced out a few weeks at a time, it would move the needle in the spectrum, the health spectrum, in the negative direction. So there's that. T. Oliver, question, does keto help gout? I've heard that yes, it does help gout. Some of you might be better equipped to answer that. I never had gout, but I do believe it does lower uric acid levels over time. If you give yourself time to recover. That is undone if you are drinking lots of alcohol. So you would have to quit alcohol too. Just quit the sugar and alcohol. And if you're keto and you're faithfully keto, that will go away, in my opinion. Once again, not an expert, just an asshole. I've never had gout, so I can't tell you for sure, but I have heard of people, and I've had commenters tell me that they've reduced or eliminated their gout by being ketogenic. So let's see here. Did I get to all the super chats? Yeah, I think Christopher Photos was the last one, and then Alex Walker before him. So thank you, all you super chatters, and you guys are really on fire today as far as helping me out, which is awesome. And I've probably got an inbox full of more research to do, which is cool. I spend a lot of time doing that. In fact, it's replaced normal television. Like Walking Dead came back on the air, and I was like so busy watching, I'm reading an audiobook, listening to an audiobook on glyphosate called Whitewash right now. So I'm all caught up in that, trying to consume that whenever I can. I got, Dr. Natasha Campbell to look at, and so I'm just so intrigued, and I'm dug into this rabbit hole that I kind of want to know. I have this thirst to know more on the subject. So that's kind of taken over a little bit. I need to step back and, give my mind a break from this here and there, but that's what I'm into right now. It's pretty cool. Paul Spires. Scott, after watching your previous video where you mentioned your past beliefs in IF and eating shit for the rest of your life, what are your top 3 tips in the last 3 years of your experiments and reading? The top 3 tips are cold turkey. Get that shit out of your life. I kept trying to keep it in, thinking that if I just spaced it out enough, I wouldn't be addicted. I would get all of the benefits and still be able to enjoy what everyone around me is enjoying, and so on and so forth. And it took the majority of that time, 1 year of which was spent plateaued, even though I was doing 1 meal a day or ADF, but I still had a lot of cheat days. I was trying to be keto. I did several keto adaptations, and then I would have like a cheat weekend that would pretty much undo the whole fucking thing. And it wasn't until I just eliminated these things that I started to see the needle move to my goal. I was within reach of my goal for a long time. Many of you know this. I'm here now to the point where even though my weight has gone back up to 189 and literally stayed there within a 0.5 range, it has deviated 0.5. I've reduced my vegetable intake significantly, which might be a factor in that. I don't know. But that weight stability hasn't been here in a long time. I weigh myself every morning when I wake up. And usually I have a 3 to 4 pound swing on keto, but since I've reduced the vegetable intake, I've already noticed my weight stability. It went back up from 184 to 189 and stay there. However, my belly measurement has been a solid either 34.5 inches or 34.75 inches. And that never happened prior to, when I still had the cheat days and the cheat weekends and the cheat vacations and the cheat fucking eating shit. No, that'd be tip number 1. Tip number 2, don't think you got the answer. Don't assume that because this is working for you that is the end. That you no longer need to research, you no longer need to know these things. Food industry is changing constantly. Dietary guidelines are evolving. Vegans are lobbying. There's all kinds of things going on that affect you on a day-to-day basis and the food you put into your body. And you need to be a part of that process, not standing on the sidelines waiting for the government to say, hey, this is what you should eat. And then you just eat what they tell you to eat, because that's what fucked us in the first place. You need to know your food. You need to know your body. You need to know how your body processes things on almost a scientific biochemical, like you're in a biochemistry class. And you need to dig deep. And if you can't dig deep, if you can't understand some of the, deeper enzymes and all of that, molecular shit, find somebody who you think is doing a good job in that realm, who's helping a lot of people, who does these lectures and summarizes for you. And you will find out that, how your body works. And once you know how your body works, you can manipulate your results, obviously. And we all want to manipulate to the healthier side. You can manipulate your body to working properly. This is the flaw in a lot of arguments with vegans is, I've dug into this. I know how my body processes each macronutrient. On a broad spectrum, I can't get in there and tell you individual proteins and individual amino acids and their pathways and all of that shit. But I know enough to make a decision. And it's an informed decision. It's not based on an opinion of one guy. It's taking in the big picture constantly. Because no one person, no one source, not even myself, not anyone has all the answers. You need to take from individual motherfuckers. And really, sorry, I had to approve a comment. And really take it all in. And the commonalities is what I look for in all of that information. What do all the ones that are having positive health results, positive health outcomes have in common? And I even listened to vegans. I just spent last week going over a vegan that I agreed with, because he wasn't really as concerned with animals. He obviously doesn't want us to eat animals, but he was more concerned with the glyphosate and plant health of the plants that we do consume, which affects even ketos. It affects everyone. And I often separate keto and vegan. I realize there are vegans that are keto. But I gotta admit that you guys are a minority as far as there's not a lot of keto vegans in the world, from at least in the vegans I've met and seen in my life. I would like them to be keto if they're going to do it. Ultimately, I would prefer vegans went vegetarian, because then they would be getting everything that they need, in my opinion. But, that is what it is. You can only give people the information. You can't make them do one thing or another, even though there are a lot of vegans that want to make me be a vegan. So, that's how it is. Rosalba, thank you, dude. Thank you for your contribution. I was going to work Uber tonight, but you guys are just kind of keeping me here. So thanks. I would much rather do this than drive people around. Though I will say, I do have some of the most interesting conversations. Occasionally I get someone in there who kind of wants to talk to me, wants, to get to know my opinions and stuff, and I got a vegetarian into the car, and they were very receptive to a lot of the things I was saying, because I was literally listening to the audiobook about glyphosate before they got in the car. I don't leave that on when they're in the car. But she started the conversation. At first it started out with, talking about alcohol, and then, of course, I don't drink. I quit drinking. Oh, did you? And it evolved all the way down to nutrition, to me saying, well, yeah, I help a lot of people giving advice about this stuff. And, you know, it's that I get feedback of what's going on in the world from driving Uber, believe it or not. That is an actual resource for me. I see where people go to eat. I see how often they're getting shit-faced. I hear them interact with each other. I pick them up at the grocery store and see what they bought. I see their health. I hear their health complaints. You know, the people get in there bitching all the time about this health problem or that health problem. And it's a nice little snapshot of society as we know it. And so, you know, I don't know how I got into that whole little tangent, but this is how my brain flows sometimes. So, Chris H., why are vegans against fasting? To my knowledge, they aren't. Some of the, you know, less educated vegans, I would say, aren't into fasting, but I find that vegan and intermittent fasting is a thing. I don't really think that they've ruled that out as being healthy. I would caution some vegan dieters, because you lose a lot of weight on a vegan diet as it is, not necessarily in a healthy way in my opinion, but when you add fasting on top of that, you know, there comes to be a question. You're already becoming deficient in certain things, and then you fast, which relies on your storage of certain nutrition. So there is that concern when it comes to vegans and fasting. But hey, you know, we're not meant to eat all the time. I don't care what you eat. We need to give our body time to recycle itself. And that is the primary function of fasting. And it can help with weight loss occasionally, at the beginning anyways. But I do believe fasting becomes less important the closer you get to your goal. And it becomes more about what foods you choose to eat. Perks64, hi Scott, what do you think about Cole and his snake diet? I have seen quite a bit of the snake diet. I think he's a little obnoxious. I don't agree with dry fasting. I'm not a fan of dry fasting. I still, you know, contend I struggle enough with electrolytes as it is without pulling my, you know, extra water reserves out of my body. So I'm not a fan of the dry fasting. He's getting results. I get feedback from you guys all the time on the dry fasting stuff. I'm never going to be on board with it, just because, you know, water is a whole different animal than food. You need water. You know, if you go a certain amount of time without water, you're going to fucking die. And you're going to die a hell of a lot sooner than if you go without food. And it's a slippery slope to tell people to dry fast, because, you know, anything more than 5 days and you're in some kind of danger zone. You don't hear about people doing like 30-day or even 15-day dry fasts for a reason. Because we need water to hold electrolytes. And without the proper electrolytes, we can have heart attacks. We can have, you know, many of you already know what happens with the cramps. Well, imagine your heart cramping. Because when you start tapping into that extra stored water, of which there is some, it's nice to know it's there, that in case our water's fucked. But I don't believe that tapping into that on a regular basis, even if you're taking snake juice, which is electrolytes in water, essentially, you know, I do agree with giving electrolytes in the water. The snake juice, probably not a big deal in terms of fasting. If you're fasting with snake juice, I would approve that. Is it a requirement? If you're having electrolyte issues, yeah, that probably help. As far as, you know, what he's doing, what he's trying to accomplish, I do like the fact that he's trying to help a lot of people. He's trying to pass on this knowledge. He's doing so in a way that is different, much like me with my fucking swearing. He is doing so in a way that is different and will reach a different audience than some of the, you know, more tighter lace people, like Dr. Berg, for example. There's people that probably won't watch Dr. Berg because he's too, you know, kind of straight-laced and a little boring. He's not entertaining about his delivery of the information. It's educational. I watch a lot of Dr. Berg to keep up with him. He's not one of my primary sources, but I like to keep an eye on what because I know he's researching. That's the thing. When you try and get this big picture, even with, you know, the snake diet, you still got to sit through a lot of stuff that you might not agree with, and you look for the pieces of information that are like, wait a minute, he might be onto something there, you know? There might be something to this. Like when I listened to the vegan last week. I call him the vegan because I can't remember his name right now. But you know, he had several pieces of solid, good scientific information sprinkled in with the, oh, by the way, take Restore and it'll cure all your glyphosate problems. You know, it's picking out those nuggets of knowledge out of all of these different gurus, including the take your shirt off motherfuckers. Delour. Sorry, Tourette's. And, you know, it's picking out these little nuggets and then expanding your research into those on your own, so that you can give your own interpretation and not just rely on someone's interpretation of that data, because your interpretation of that data is going to be different than that person's, because you're looking at it through an entirely different lens than that person's looking at it. You know, a bodybuilder dropping 20 pounds is looking at things through a much different lens than a 350-pound 67-year-old who couldn't even think about going to the gym, that is on 10,000 different fucking pills and wants to get healthy. Those are two different lenses to address the same fucking problem. So this is why you can't put all of your eggs in one person's basket. You need to pick out pieces from all of these different sources, particularly when those pieces are common, as in every motherfucker you listen to or article you read or whatever has this same thing happening in it. And then go and take that and look more into it. And that's kind of my whole research process. It starts with just watching videos, watching lectures, watching speeches like Natasha Campbell I'm watching right now. She's going to have all of these little nuggets. She might not have the big picture. She might have a lot of it. I haven't disagreed much with some of the things that she's been going over. But she's going to send me into these areas of further knowledge and expand my understanding of it. And that's what we have to do. And by the way, I'm liking this new format where I'm not trying to scroll back, because I feel like, you know, you guys will be a little more vigilant and I'll be able to get to your questions. So once again, if I haven't answered a question, just repost it until I see it, if you can. You know, and if it's really, really important, let me know, you know, draw my attention to it. But as you can see, we're a little bit delayed, but, you know, if you see your comment on the screen next to my fucking face and I miss it and you want me to address it, just repost it later on. It's okay. The chat will keep scrolling. So there's that. And if I don't get to your comment, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. I will do more of these. Jyoti, Scott, have you ever tried ghee? What is your opinion on it? Nope, haven't ever tried it. I'm a pretty basic motherfucker, you know. I don't experiment too much. You know, I got my yogurt, I got my cheese curds, I got my ground beef, I got my eggs, got my bacon and sausage. I had my Veronica's Health Crunch. I'm trying to not buy that again for a while, just to see how I do without it. And I do feel a little better the past couple of days without the veg, without the nuts. I'm still doing the 100% Baker's chocolate, unsweetened, and I'm still doing the coffee with heavy cream and Splenda Naturals, which is stevia erythritol. Those are probably big staples. Occasionally I have a few spoonfuls of Halo Top ice cream as a kind of a treat. But other than that, it's been meat and cheese and fat. And since I've whittled it down, I noticed yesterday I had an increased level of energy. I had an increased level of alertness. So I'm taking the first steps towards that rabbit hole that is carnivore, and I'm finding positive results already, not to mention the stable weight the entire week, regardless of eating like 3/4 of a pound of fucking ground beef and getting disgustingly full. But I'm a very basic motherfucker. I didn't start experimenting with food till I got on this journey, because I knew I had to find new things to eat to replace all of the standard American shit I was eating. So I started to try things. If you go back, I even tried some vegan shit. Took a big shit on it, if you recall. But, you know, it's about experimentation and finding what works best for you. But I find that my diet covers all the bases, and it's simple. And if you keep it simple, the simpler you... Now, some people need variety. I understand that. I'm not that way. I'm a creature of habit. I generally eat the same several foods and just cycle through them throughout the week. You know, some days it's an egg day, some days it's a steak day, some days it's a ground beef day, you know. And it used to be vegetables, sprinkle in spinach with butter here and there, and asparagus and that kind of stuff. But, you know, I I haven't missed the veg, and I haven't felt like shit. In fact, I've improved a little, in my opinion, on how I've felt. My mood is improved. Remember I told you I'd get slightly down? That's gone away over the past couple days. So it is what it is. You just got to play around with it. So how are we doing on time here? I haven't even been keeping up. Oh, we're still well under 2 hours. I generally try and go 2 hours on this, especially as generous as you guys have been. So I want to try and get to more people. And who knows what rabbit hole you'll send me down. So let's see here. Deborah Mazines, Scott, what is your favorite dark chocolate? It's this 100% Baker's chocolate, it's called. I don't have the brand handy with me right now. You find it in the baking aisle of most grocery stores, at least in my area. It's completely unsweetened. It's about yay thick. It seems to, it's just strictly, there's no other ingredients. And I'll take that and I'll either melt it with some stevia erythritol and sometimes break that up into some yogurt and make some chocolate chip yogurt that way. But just the 100% chocolate from different sources, and I have noticed differences in flavor in the different 100% chocolates. I would say just try a couple of them until you find one that tastes best to you. So let's see here. Sandra, okay guys, I gotta go. I guess I'll watch the replay. Well, thank you for stopping by. And I hope today helped in some way. I hope a lot of people get a lot of good information out of today, and I hope a lot of you do go and let the USDA know just how you feel about our dietary guidelines and what you think they should be. Jazz and Justice, Scott, how many hours do you fast for every day? I vary it. Currently, I was trying to do an intuitive eating keto session where I occasionally try to overeat on keto and snack, and that has resulted in a stable weight for the entire almost 2 weeks now that I've been doing that. And so I would say on average, I'm averaging between 16 and 19 hours of fasting because I generally don't eat when I first get up in the morning. With the caveat that I do have some heavy cream in my coffee when I get up. I don't go black coffee. So I'm currently, I don't know, if depending on what you consider, I'm technically only fat fasting for 16 to 18 hours a day. But I've had complete weight stability, good energy, not hungry at all. In fact, I eat more based on timing than on I could eat hunger. So right now, but then there's going to be a week. I'm planning really soon on doing another 5-day fat fast. And then, I think I'm shying away from the long water fast, given that the fat fasts seem to have better results for me. I might throw in a water fast, here and there, just to kind of recycle things and get things, shut down the digestive system, get that energy to work, repairing the body, that kind of stuff. So, it's random, and change it up. Don't stick to the same fasting regimen. This whole journey of mine has involved everything from, 5 to 7 day fasts to, every other day. ADF's still one of my favorites. Eventually I'll go to ADF fat fasting style at some point as my default, because you're never hungry on that. And that's kind of where I'm at. It'll be interesting to see what kind of fasting routines I can do while carnivore, when I do the 30-day carnivore challenge, which I haven't decided when to start that yet. So that's kind of where I'm at. Experiment. You change it up. Keep your body guessing. If you do the same protocol for the entire time, your body's going to say, all right, well, this is how it is, and it's going to stabilize and adapt. Keep your body guessing. Jazz and Justice, I'm doing a fat fast right now, then we'll transition to water fast. I need to lose 20 more pounds. Just a word of caution, when you do long fasts, you might not keep all of it. Long fasts are more about tearing down damaged cells and rebuilding. You do lose weight, obviously. You're running off of your body fat. However, your appetite and hormones after 5 days of fasting do drop. Fat fasting, I think you get more time. I haven't figured out the other end of that yet, but I do know that when I did a 6-day fat fast, I regained all but 2 pounds from that I lost during the fast. And I also hit my all-time low weight for a while on that fat fast, which I believe was like 181, 182, somewhere in there. All-time low since high school anyway. So it's a slippery slope with the long fasts. I do believe they're necessary. I believe they help move the needle, but intrinsically, is in and of themselves, they're not going to give you lasting weight loss, but they might help move your set point. And I do believe that longer fasts and fat fasting and all of that helps move your set point. So if you're plateauing a lot, or if you're stuck, it can be kind of a plateau breaker. You're liable to go right back up to your plateau after the fast, and then a couple weeks later, after the fast, you've regained the weight from the fast, then you'll start to notice a downtick. And I do believe that means the refeeding period is equally as important to the fast. So after you're done fasting, don't just transition to another fasting protocol. Give yourself some intuitive eating period. Eat when you're hungry, stop eating when you're full after the fast for probably double the length of time that you were fasting. That would be my recommendation in order to, because you tore the shit down. Now you got to put it all back. And sometime during that process, I have noticed after that 2-week, refeed, after a 1 week of fast, that your weight goes back up to where it was before you started the fast, and then it'll start ticking down on its own, depending on what protocol you eventually follow after the refeed period. With me, it was ADF, and it started to tick back down. Consequently, after ADF, I went to intuitive eating and overeating, and it ticked back up to 189, which is where I'm at today. And it stopped there, regardless of, trying to eat more. Like I was eating when I wasn't hungry. I was eating out of boredom sometimes, but it was all keto. And not a lot of veg, not a lot of, there's no nuts involved in that. It was just mostly meat, fat, and some chocolate, which is fat, essentially. So there's that. Let's see what we're doing here. Andy Spark, what is the proper meal after fasting? I tend to, this is my opinion, I tend to favor... You see, when you're fasting, you're going into ketosis. You're burning your fat for energy. So in my opinion, and plus when you add in the fat fasting data and how we perform on that, I think the first thing you should do after a long fast is introduce some fat. So I myself use heavy cream for that role. You could use coconut oil, butter, all of that. Just have some fat, in liquid form after the fast. That fires up your digestive system while keeping you in fat burning mode. It's the essential, fat fasting is essentially putting kindling in the fat burning fire. You start off metabolizing that fat, and then when that's gone, you go back to your fat, which is the principle behind fat fasting. I would start out there and then transition into keto, because you're already in ketosis. You're already being fueled by ketones. You're going through adaptations, especially if you came off the standard American diet. You're not going to feel great. But if you want to gradually, you shouldn't just jump back into the carbs, because you're not a carb burner at the end of a long fast. You're a fat burner. And if you shock the system with highly processed shitty food, or a shit ton of carbs, you're putting your body under more stress than it needs to. Gradually transitioning back to being a carb burner, if that's your thing, would be my advice. Start off with keto for a few days, and then start reintroducing the carbs. Start with the vegetables, and then maybe some nuts, and and then gradually, if you need to go back to that poison, refined carbs and sugar, then you throw that in later. But I'm telling you, that shit needs to get out of your diet, if that's as far back as you go. If you're looking at fasting alone isn't going to get the job done all the way. It'll get you part way there, but overall, it's not going to get you the whole way. And yes, Deborah, no Pop-Tarts. So, let's see. Jim, what chat is Scott looking at? This one or Facebook or something? I'm looking at the one, you know, it's probably 30 seconds behind your screen now that I think about it, but I am looking at the one on I'll start looking at the one on the screen so it's closer to when I'm talking. It's hard to tell. This doesn't sync up easily, but I have two different chat windows open. There's the one that you guys are seeing, which is on through my broadcasting software, and then there's the live, you know, so there's about a 30-second gap from my chat window and the chat window you see next to my face when I'm talking. So there's that. So just try and time it, I guess. It's not perfect science. Someday I'll be able to employ a moderator for this shit, but for now I kind of like the direct interaction as it is, because some things might not get through a moderator that I would probably give attention to. Let's see. Let's see what else. No new comments there. Let's see. I'm gonna scroll up a little. See if I missed anything good. Rosalba, I have been stuck at the same weight but have lost inches. I do not care for the scale, it lies. And I addressed that in the video this week when I went over someone being unhappy with their upward tick in the scale, and I said the scale's the worst. It's not what we need to track when we're tracking our progress. It's a benefit in most cases. There's going to come a point in your journey where the scale is so much less important, especially if you're active, physically active, and you start building muscle. You're going to gain weight that way. I'm not sure what category I'm in because I'm not physically active right now, thanks to the fucking unending winter in New York. It's about kind of just sorry, I lost my train of thought there. The scale is unimportant. It should be about how you feel, how your measurements are. If you're really concerned about the fat you should be most concerned about is the one around your organs or in your organs, in the case of fatty liver and fatty pancreas and these things that lead to insulin resistance. That's the most important fat, and you can get that checked. I forget what, I think it was ALT levels in your blood. That'll tell you if you have fatty liver. So those are the things that you should be concerned with, not the number on the scale or how you look in the mirror even, because you can be overweight and healthy. So there's that. So yes, the scale is only seems to be important for them to take your shirt off, motherfuckers, or look good in a bikini, motherfuckers. Not how we should live our lives. Do you see hunter-gatherers giving a shit how they look? I watched some National Geographic shit and they looked all wrinkly and, they didn't look fuckable. We'll just put it that way. Yet they were probably to each other, they were fine. I'm just saying. But they are probably a lot healthier than we are. And, looks don't correlate to health necessarily. There's plenty of really good-looking people that drop dead. Anyways, what else we got? Christopher Photos at Dominique. I can't even pronounce your fucking name or something. How about increasing the amount of saturated fat? I drink a lot of heavy cream each day and it makes my bowels move well. I assume that Dominic, let me scroll up and see what Dominic had said. Cutting vegetables gets me constipated, hurts so much to take a shit. What should I do? Increasing water intake. I find, if you're dehydrated, if your piss is dark, you should especially do this. Increase your water intake. That'll help loosen things up a bit. I don't experience a lot of constipation. There are times when it doesn't come out as easy as it should, since we're talking about shit. But there are times when it's just normal, and I could tell you what it used to be, and there used to be blood involved in my stool early on. Is when the standard American diet, that wasn't cool. Now, I've always lasted days, even back then, between times I shit. You know, most people talk about shitting every day. I'm not one of those. I've gone as long as a week sometimes without taking a shit, but without feeling like I had to take a shit. That's what constipation is. And are you differentiating that? If you feel like you have to shit, like to the point where you're in there sitting on the bowl trying to shit and nothing's coming out, you are constipated. If you just haven't shit in a while, it's probably because you don't have enough in there to have to shit. There is a difference. Some people mistake the I haven't shit in a while, so I must be constipated. That's not entirely the case. And some foods don't even, cause. Meats in particular, you use 99% of that. It doesn't end up in your shit. They showed this through a colostomy bag. So, how often you shit depends largely on the amount of fiber you're taking in. More fiber, more shit. So if you're saying you're constipated because you have to shit or it comes out really rough, then yes, I would say increase your water intake. That seems to work fine for me because I do struggle with keeping my water intake up, especially drinking coffee, which is a diuretic. That's the only thing I've had to do to rectify when it gets a little rough coming out. Most of the time, it's not rough coming out. It's pretty free-flowing. I create my little island. I flush that shit. And now I've grossed everybody out. Yay. Shit and shit, as Spive just said. I like how it filters that. All right. Deborah, I weighed myself today, first time in years, and almost had a heart attack. I have been weight training for years and since IF for 10 weeks now and lost a lot of inches. Go by how your clothes fit. True story. The scale is a pile of shit. The other day, I forgot to weigh in the morning, and I was like, you know what? This is pretty good not knowing. Because it gives you that hope, that what if? What if it does this? It's a psychological thing. That fucking scale is psychological completely. It's not even a great tool, in my opinion. If I had it to do over again, I would probably have just ignored it and stuck with the belly measurement. How is my shirts fitting? How is my visceral fat going? Or if there's a part of my body that I felt was holding on to too much fat, I would have just got the tape measure out and seeing if I could whittle that down. Because the scale is telling you how much food you got in your body, how much shit you're carrying around if you haven't shit in a while. It's telling you all of this extra shit, which is irrelevant to your journey. So the scale is a good idea. If it keeps going up and up and up, obviously you're doing something that's causing that, and you need to evaluate that. Or if it's dropping, it's dropping. But if it's not going anywhere, then you need to lean more heavily on measurements, because there could be a variety of reasons why your weight has stalled or gone up a little. There's so many variables involved in the scale that the scale is a poor measurement of progress. T. Oliver, people have no idea what constipation actually is. I had a cat that ate better food and produced less turds. Same for us. And that's a true story. And carnivores will tell you that a little bit too. Your gut bacteria is the primary contributor to your shit, by the way. A lot of us have unhealthy gut bacteria, with the glyphosate thing especially. So that has a big influence on what comes out the other end. And a lot of bacteria eats fiber, and the fiber obviously being from vegetables and grains and that kind and nuts. And the less fiber you're taking in, which is kind of boggles my mind why we take fiber to shit more, because basically what you're essentially doing is shoving more stuff in there to kind of push through your body. So you're filling up your intestines with fiber so that you can push it out the other end. That's essentially what taking fiber does for you to make you shit. But there are some foods, animal foods in particular, that do not produce a lot of waste products, that do not have fiber. Therefore, you use most of it. And this is proven. This is not new. You go find somebody with a colostomy bag, feed them meat and nothing else, and see what comes out the other end. And many of us who do reduce the fiber and eat more meat and fat will find that when we do shit, it's very small. And it's not very often. That doesn't equal constipation. Constipation is a whole other thing. You know you have to shit. You're full of shit. And it ain't coming out when you sit on the bowl and it's uncomfortable. You know what real constipation is. The act of not shitting is not constipation. I can't stress that enough. So. And also doing long fasts, you can go a long time. Nothing in, nothing out. But weirdly enough, every once in a while you'll have this nice little run to the bathroom during a long fast as some of your gut bacteria dies off and needs to come out. And that's usually runny. You ain't going to have a problem with that. You'll be running to the bathroom hoping you don't fucking squirt in your shorts. So, yeah, this is really awesome conversation. How did we get down the shit, rabbit hole, so to speak? So... Alrighty, so now that we're done talking about our shit, and we've established the difference between constipation and just not having to shit, let's move on and shit. Helen, have you tried the carnivore diet yet? No, but I have reduced my vegetable intake currently, just to see, I'm not going to jump right in, because like I said, there are some foods that I don't want, like the idea of giving up, namely coffee and 100% chocolate and my pork rinds. That's another thing. Well, I guess you could technically eat pork rinds in a carnivore diet. Yeah, I guess pork rinds would still be on the table. That's a junk food, by the way. I don't consider that health food at all. So, it's not letting me... Okay, all right. I was hitting the show because it's been flagging comments where everyone, I don't know how that is analyzing your comments, but there's been several comments that should be okay that it just makes me approve and disapprove, which is, I guess, okay. Let's see. Jyoti, love the recommendation about intuitive eating after a fast. Helps me a ton. Can't wait for this weight to start ticking back down. Fingers crossed. Yeah, give it 2 weeks. Or however, like if you did like a 14-day fast, give it a month. Because when you first start eating again, you're going to have a response and you're going to rapidly regain the weight. Then you're going to plateau going back up, especially if you're keto. Now, this does not apply to the standard American diet. Because if you eat the standard American diet after a fast, you're just going to keep going up. Because it's not going to ramp your metabolism up appropriately. If you go back to keto, I know that ramps. I've done it now, like several times. You're going to plateau going back up. It might even be a pound past where you started. And then, after you give it time, you keep eating, it's going to be hard. You're going to be looking at the scale going, fuck you, scale. You're going to be looking at the tape measure going, son of a bitch. But you got to wait. You be patient. Give yourself double the time of your fast. Eating intuitively. Eat when you're hungry. Stop eating when you're full. And that should be the only time that you're eating. And you should be eating keto. And when you do all of that, you should notice the way it'll tick back down. Then after that period, it might not tick down during that period. After that period, go to your default fasting protocol, whether it's 16 and 8, 1 meal a day, for me, ADF, whatever your normal fasting regimen is. And we should all have one, in my opinion. You shouldn't just not fast. Just whatever level of protocol that you're comfortable living your life in. Me is ADF, it's ADF. After that period, go back to that default protocol and then see what happens with your weight and your body fat and the measurements. And if that is showing progress, then the fast accomplished something. If you start to tick down after the feeding period. Because let's not forget, long fasts are tearing shit down. And I'm talking anything more than 3 to 5 days. That's variable depending on physical activity. Anything more than that, you're breaking shit down. You need to build it afterwards. And what you build has some correlation with exercise. So if you're looking to build more muscle, obviously you want to work out during your refeed and recovery period. But you need to put all of the nutrients, all the electrolytes, all the things you relied on during the fast back where they are. Your bones need to regenerate because they're taking care of a lot of your electrolytes and minerals during the fast. You need to replenish your gut microbiome of the bacteria because there was a little battle that went on during your fast, and the strong bacteria ate the weak bacteria, and you ended up running to the bathroom. So that happened during the fast. You need to repopulate your gut microbiome properly, hopefully, and healthily. Then you need to rebuild the cells that went through autophagy, that were broken down for their amino acids, that were essentially removed because they were damaged and unable to cope with the stress of fasting. You need to regrow those. That's part of the process. And it's not... it's an arbitrary number. I don't have a proven science that says you should refeed twice the length of your fast. I've just found for me that once I do that, I go through that little, oh shit, I really fucked up this last long fast, to, oh, wait a minute, it's ticking down again, and I'm not doing anything extra. And that wasn't happening before the long fast. So I do believe the long fasts contribute overall to moving the set point. But the lower you get on that set point, the harder it is going to be to move that. It might take multiple fasting, feasting protocols or regimens before the needle will start moving again. So that's my opinion, based largely on my self-experimentation, along with a lot of the research I've done on the topic. And a lot of the feedback you guys give me, too. So there's that. How are we doing on time? I'm going to end this when my little clock says 2 hours. We got about 10 minutes left, so let's see what we can do. I do need a drink of plastic water. Hopefully glyphosate-free and shit. Laura Rios. I'm looking at the other chat window now. Scott, have you tried pork rinds with a lot of fat attached to it? Delicious. Honestly, other than dipping it in French onion dip, which is keto safe but junk foody. No, I haven't thought about buttering it. I think they get soggy if you put certain things on them. So I'm not really a fan of soggy pork rinds. I like them. They were my potato chip fetish replacement, was pork rinds. They're an acquired taste. I know a lot of people that just can't do it. I've been doing it long enough now where they're equally as satisfying to me as a potato chip. If I'm going to get bored and eat bored because, I'm watching something, I want something to munch on, I go to the pork rinds because they're going to have the minimal impact. They're not something I do daily, but there's times when you just want to feel like you got a bag of fucking chips, and that's what the pork rinds do for me. I'm going to get the bag of chips, I'm going to fucking dip, and I'm fucking happy. I'm munching on something while I'm watching people tell me to not munch on shit. And shit. So there's that. Alrighty. Chris, I've noticed some vegans are very pushy to get people to switch over to be vegans. True story. There are some ketos that are that way. There are some people who are that way. I find the vegans to be a lot higher on the you should be a vegan too bandwagon, but that does not encompass every vegan. There are vegans who are subscribers. There's a vegan who contributes on Patreon to this channel. So there's vegans helping me run this channel, and I come down, and that's even despite all the shit I talk. But I've assured the vegans that do watch me that I'm not specifically speaking to them. I'm speaking to the triggered, ultra judgmental, undereducated vegans who like to just come and attack people because of their ideology. That's the vegans I'm talking about when I talk shit to the vegans. And of course the doctors that are pushing it as the healthiest diet, I don't agree with them at all, especially with the high dropout rate due to health reasons that I've observed personally in my personal life from some of the vegans I've known. And I've seen vegans with cancer and overweight and obese. And, you know, so when a doctor's on here saying this is the healthiest diet and he's getting people who are sick to jump on this bandwagon, I tend to have a disagreement and a problem with that, because they haven't really proven themselves, in my opinion, in terms of reversing chronic disease. Now, there's always that vegan unicorn that's went into the vegan clinic and reversed all of his insulin resistance and lowered his blood sugar. And yes, I have no doubt there are unicorns in the population that can thrive as a vegan in the short term. Bring me a 20-year vegan, you know, someone who's been faithful, raw vegan, eating healthy, and I contend that they're still going to be better off than a standard American dieter, but they're going to have problems, and their problems are because of the gaps in the diet. Become vegetarian, I'm all for that. You know, if that to me is just as healthy as keto, if not in some cases healthier, depending on the amount of junk food and stuff. But go vegetarian, get out of the processed food, whole foods vegetarian. I have no problem with that, because you're getting all of your essentials that way. You're eating fish, you're allowed to have dairy, I think. You know, there's things you're and occasionally you can have a little meat. You know, but they just choose not to. Some people don't like meat. I understand that too. So, you know, it's about compromise too, you know, like, and it's the carnivore thing. I'm getting a lot of, carnivores are at risk of doing the same thing that vegans do. And that's just like kind of, you know, being pushy, but I'm not really finding that as much. I just know that there's a lot of people that want me to try it. So, you know, I guess just take it as it is, you know. All right. Stars in a Forest. We made homemade pork rinds last night. Well, I think they're pork rinds. I took a fresh local pork jowl skin and threw it in the air fryer with pink salt. That is way more work than I would want to put into pork rinds. So, yeah, but I'm sure it was probably a lot better than the pork rinds I buy in the grocery store. Jody, talk about weights. Did I catch everything from Jody there? Because I thought I saw somebody just say goodbye. Oh, yeah, got to go. Well, thanks for stopping by, Jody. You're a regular contributor in the comments too, and you know you've done a lot of valuable stuff here for the channel, so I appreciate you and shit. CPAP machine. Hey Scott, are you flying your drone again soon? Cool stuff, bro. I absolutely am looking forward to when this weather breaks and I can get out into the world and start filming out in the world. I'm sure over the last week you've noticed, thanks to shitty weather and just looking outside and being like, fuck that shit. I've been filming in here almost exclusively all week. I've got this down to a science though, so I can pump out content a lot more efficiently when I film here, but I still miss being out there. And I do think that's an important part of my own health, to get out into the world and to bring you guys content aside from just the nutrition. I want to do more lifestyle, more minimalism, more budget travel type stuff, because I think it's important to expose ourselves to other things and other environments, especially given this knowledge that I've been dropping into. So yeah, there's going to be more drone footage. I can't wait to fly it again. There's going to be more use of the 360 camera. I got a gimbal for my DSLR so I can film better footage while I'm out and be more cinematic. I do want to try my hand at making a few documentaries here and there, you know, which takes a lot of time. A lot of editing has to go into a process like that. A lot of production and pre-production even, and arranging interviews and stuff like that. I do want to break into that, but right now I'm doing this and I'm working on those skills required to make those videos, to add them to my toolbox for the channel, so I will be able to do these projects in the future. But as of right now, the weather sucks. It's cold. I don't like the cold, so I don't go out in it that much, except to work Uber, which I'm in the car, which is warm and shit. Keeley Farmer just got in. Scott, do you know anything about high lipase? No, I do not. Submit something on like if you have a concern or a question regarding it, submit it through the research page in the context of what, you know, why do you want to know about it? There's a lot of stuff I don't know about. So that's one of the ways I learned. You know, I didn't know about glyphosate. It turns out it's a big player on the field, and I was completely unaware of it. So, you know, like I said, I don't know everything, not an expert, but by all means, teach me. Send me into the rabbit hole, and I'll go out there and find out on why you're concerned with it. I can't get to everything, though, because I've gotten a lot. And I'm one guy. I'm a one-man band. I don't have a room of researchers. I don't have a production team. I don't have an editor. I don't have a fucking cinematographer. I don't have any of the fucking things that the bigger YouTubers have. So don't expect that level of response. Like, I'm not even having a moderator for the chat room during a live stream. So, you know, I'll do the best I can. So, it's freezing in Toronto, Canada, too, Deborah Mazines rates. And, I've gone to Toronto a lot. My last trucking job, I would run across the border to Toronto, to Montreal, sometimes to New Brunswick. So I ran back and forth into Canada quite a bit. So I'm very familiar with Canada. And last time I broke out in hives was up there. And I was just doing some research, and I found that there's a lot of glyphosate spraying in the crops up there. And I was like knee deep in sleeping in that shit, pretty much. So there's that. But yeah, I've been to Toronto plenty. In fact, I had a car accident with my truck once up there. Like, I backed into somebody a little bit. So I actually got the full Toronto experience. I haven't been there as a tourist, though. It's on my list of stuff to do. I do also want to do that. You know, I'm trying to get to places I used to go in trucking that I didn't get to really hang out in and see and enjoy. So there's going to be more of that coming, and it's going to be in my Prius with a little mattress in that motherfucker, and I'm going to camp in there and bring my drone, bring my camera, and film and live stream from the road, which we've already figured out I can do. So there's that. Rosalba, we love you live and uncut, Scott. I did, you know, start the uncut series, and that still is part of the deal, you know, as far as if I don't have time to edit and produce the video in some way. However, I've got the setup going now that I can, you know, just turn the camera on, turn the mixer on, get the mic going, and give you a decent talk without a lot of bells and whistles. I still have to take it into the editor. I've had it set up with a template so I can just plug in my credits. Then I have to listen through it because there are mistakes I make and things that I'm not happy with. You know, I color correct a little too. The photographer in me just never dies. So, you know, I put a lot of work into the videos, but I've streamlined it now to where, you know, because I didn't want to just put out uncut videos all the time. So I streamlined it to where I can add some production value while not sacrificing a ton of time that could be spent researching and, you know, doing other things. Because I found that, you know, before my research time was lacking because I was spending so much production time making videos. So I've been working on that process to improve it. But there's going to be times when I'm traveling, when I'm out in the world, and the best thing I can do is throw my phone on and upload directly from my phone. And that, you know, I'll of course tell you when that situation comes up, and that'll be uncut, so to speak. And then there'll be times when I can't do a lot of editing. I can't go back and listen to myself and do all of that shit. And that'll be semi-uncut. I'll still be able to throw a little production into it. But I just won't be able to rewatch it and go through and clear out mistakes and stuff. But I won't really call those uncut because I'm still doing some production on them. So, Deborah, great Scott. Sorry to hear that. Definitely come and visit. You will have a much better time and shit. I'm planning on doing a lot of traveling in Canada because there's a lot of wilderness in Canada. And I like the wilderness. I like to get out in the middle of fucking nowhere occasionally. I probably am leaning more towards New Brunswick and those areas because they're more wild, I guess. But yeah, there's a whole lot of nature to be enjoyed up in Canada that remains untouched, which is awesome. And I've been there with my truck and seen a lot of these places too. And I kind of like it, you know, just not in the winter. I don't like Canadian winter at all. But to be fair, weirdly enough, some of your Canadian winter is easier than here in Syracuse because we're getting all the lake effect. And we just get hammered here during the wintertime. There's been times when I was running in Canada where the winter was just way nicer in Canada than it was in Syracuse. So there's that. Spy of 21. Scott, close the fridge door. Get the knot out of your earpiece. Can you even see the fucking knot? The knot, like I thought I was hiding it behind my fucking beard. Which knot? Because I got like a whole bunch of knots. There's a knot there, and there's another like, oh, that's not a knot. So, but yeah, I put the earpiece in so I can, you know, make sure I'm not talking away from the mic and shit. So there's that. Yes, the knot's still there. I don't know. You drew attention to it, so now I'm like, but now I kind of like the knot. What if I want to keep it? And shit. All right. Let's see here. I think I need to wrap it up. We are at 2 hours and 3 minutes. So I hope that we were able to, you know, get all of this on board with letting the USDA know where we stand, what we did to get our health results, and help people make better choices going forward with the guidelines instead of making better choices for the special interests of governments and the special interests of corporations. Let's have our food and, you know, governmental food regulators be interested in only one thing: public health. Period. I don't care if it costs a little more. I'll gladly pay $5 more for my organically fucking protected food just so that I don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical costs at the end of my life. To me, that seems a fair trade. Pay a little more now while I'm eating to not pay more down the line. It's a bad business model to do, you know, give us cheap, shitty food, and then we get sick for 20 years. You know, that's not how things work. Now we're getting sick as children. Let's stop that stupid cycle, and it starts with us as consumers, because we're part of the problem. Every time you walk into that McDonald's and you pluck down that money, you're saying, yes, please, more of this. That's our responsibility as consumers to do. It's not all on the government. It's not all on the food industry. The food industry wants to make money. And the food industry wants to try and keep you doing the things you've been doing because they made a lot of money. But if we change and we vote with our dollars, we can change what the food industry does to make money. Because there's one standard when your sole goal is profit, and that is to sell what people are buying. And if we change what we buy, the food industry has to change. Thereby, that will spiral up to the government because the food industry lobbies the government. We have a responsibility every bit as much as the government and food industry. They're kind of our bitches, if you think about it. They don't want you to know that, but we're in charge of them. How we spend our money. And they're going to try and manipulate that. They're going to try and change the narrative, give you fucked up science, cherry-picked shit. They're going to do all of this stuff. And you got to look through that. Figure out the real health. Get control of your food. Be aware of where it comes from. It's not realistic to say grow your own shit or raise your own farm. You know, in a utopian world, maybe. The world I'm from, it doesn't work that way. And there's places that you can't do that. Or people who just economically can't do that. It's still, when it comes down to it, who you choose to buy your food from and where it comes from are completely in your control, believe it or not. You just have to navigate through all the little, you know, bells and whistles they're throwing at you to make you eat their shit. And it is shit in a lot of cases. Sometimes real shit. You know, you gotta make informed decisions. Know how your body works. And once you start that process, like I have and have done, you know, this is not impossible. I've seen people that are a lot sicker than me get to this past the same place that make me look like a little, you know, flea on a dog's asshole in terms of the amount of shit I've had to fix. So, and listen to those people and what they did and find the commonalities. And you will be able to gain control of our food environment. There is hope. This is depressing shit I've been researching the past couple weeks. Makes you kind of want to throw up your hands and eat Pop-Tarts again. Not me. Because I know, as a minimalist, that plays into it, that my consumption habits drive those markets. And once we realize that we really do have control of this, that's when we can make change. But we have to do it together. If only one or two of us, we're not making a dent. If everyone changes their spending and eating habits, all of these dominoes will fall. And they'll either get on board or they'll get left behind. But they're going to do everything in their power to influence what you think is healthy. And it's going to be in line with the pocketbooks, not with your health. So keep that in mind. I wish I was wrong about this, but I firmly believe this. It's my opinion. But I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. Truck driver. Figured out how to fix his own health. And wants to share that with everybody. That's what I'm here for. And you guys keep me going. You have definitely kept me going. I want to thank one more time all of the Super Chat contributors for today. Robert Brown, Joe Maley, CA from New Jersey, Alex Welker, Christopher Photos, Stars in a Forest, who also has a YouTube channel. Check out her YouTube channel. She has quite the weight loss story, and she's one of those people I would refer you to who did Keto Dirty. And Rosalba Trujillo. So they have all helped keep me doing this, keep me doing the research, allowing me to have time. I probably will do some research over the weekend, but I'm not going to work. I need to take some time off. I haven't taken time off in a while. Or I'll probably work Uber. Depends on how things go. But I need to decompress a little, I think, given all this new stressful shit. Please like and subscribe for more shit. If you enjoyed this live stream, I'm thinking of making it a regular Friday thing, which may be difficult if other things come up, so I'm not going to lock into that. But I'm going to shoot for a live stream every Friday so that more and more people can kind of plan, because instead of doing the random whenever I can fucking get to it live stream, I'm going to start trying to do it. And it helps that I have been refining my work process and making it easier to live stream, because now I can just turn everything on, set up the live stream, and go. So I'm looking at a weekly live stream on Fridays. The time may vary, though. Allow me some flexibility there. I hope you all have a great fucking weekend. Check out ScottTheTruckDriver.com. I probably at some point next week I'm going to do an enhancement to the recommended products page, because there's some books I'm reading now that I feel would benefit people. There's some books I plan on reading, so maybe I'll just have the shit I plan to get. So we're going to go through, and I'm going to refine that a little bit, because that is another way. If you're going to buy shit anyway, you can help the channel without spending extra money. That's kind of what I'm going to work on for the recommended products page. Not doing a podcast next week. I'm kind of really enjoying being able to put this out to everyone. So I'm not doing any exclusive content-wise. Further down the line, I am looking at things I can put on the website that maybe you guys would want to help support the channel, but you kind of want something in return. It's probably going to be photography based, or maybe even a documentary, that takes a long time to film and put together. I would probably, if it requires a budget especially, I would probably make that exclusive content, and just have a trailer here on the channel for something like that. So that's something down the road that I'm considering. But for right now, I'm doing good. You guys have helped me out through your financial and research contributions and from watching, and we had a nice boost in subscribers this past week. So we're going to hit 7,000 really soon, and you guys are all a part of that. And you guys are helping keep this community positive. And I've coming from a former YouTube channel that had a very negative community. You guys have just proven me that there's some good people in the world. That we're just, you don't get to hear from good people in most social media settings. All the shitheads that tend to get elevated. So it's refreshing for me to go into a social media platform such as YouTube and see a lot of positive. There's some assholes here and there, but this has been overwhelmingly positive, this channel, especially given the number of people involved. So it gives me hope for humanity. You guys have really stepped up, and you've given me an optimism despite all of these hurdles to our health and our mental health that we're facing in today's world. So I can't say thank you enough. So no matter what your contribution has been, even if it's just been watching my shit and occasionally sharing it, or clicking the little bell icon, I feel like I have to say that now because every YouTuber tells me to do that now, and I think I subscribe, but I actively look at my subscriptions to see what's new. If I really like you, I don't need a bell icon. I just go and look at your shit. So, and plus I heard the bell icon wasn't working right. So there's all of that. ScottTheTruckDriver.com. Thank you once again, and have a nice motherfucking day and shit.